Bene, buon pomeriggio a tutti.
So good afternoon to everyone. I wish to thank CIB for the invitation. And in my brief presentation, I'm going to spend a couple of words on Scania to explain what is its philosophy in order to mitigate our environmental impact and improve climate, and then a short overview of our supply of products with certain characteristics. So, 3 pieces of information. Scania has been on the market for the past 130 years. It produces trucks, HTVs. It offers vehicles, produces engines, and also buses. And it operates in over 100 countries, manufacturing some 82,000 industrial vehicles, 9,000 buses and industrial engines. A very important element is represented by the fact that Scania has some 50,000 employees, but its vocation has always been that of promoting innovation and development. So the R&S sector in Scania has over 3,800 staff, mostly engineers. Scania invests 7% of its turnover in this field, again devoted to development and the environmental sector. So Scania operates all over the world, as I was saying, as you've seen from the slide. Main business sectors, some 90,000 units are produced as industrial vehicles, 9,000 buses, some 9,000 industrial and naval engines, and some 20% of its turnover it comes from services. There is here a short overview of Scania's production since the Second World War up until last year, just talking about trucks and buses. Data for 2018 are going to be made available shortly. This data refers to 2017, but more or less the trend is evident. So after illustrating what Scania stands for, let us now focus on the approach that we adopt on the topic of sustainability. We see here the new generation of trucks in the field of Scania vehicles after 10 years of research. These were launched in 2016. 3% savings in fuels, more aerodynamics. This is what the new trucks feature. So why is Scania interested in sustainable transportation? Well, first of all, to reduce traffic, which we all experience, pollution, not to depend only on one type of fuel, and of course, what worries us the most is climate change. The 3 pillars on which Scania's strategy is based: energy efficiency in trucks, so lower consumption, alternative fuels, and we will get to this afternoon's topic, electrification, and last but not least, smart transport and safe transport. So this last bit, that seems perhaps trivial, is well summarized in this picture. Since 2011, Scania, with the approval of its customers, requires its trucks to be connected in order to share transportation information with its customers and, of course, make the most of them. So we're talking about consumption, routes, and driving style of trucks. 40% of trucks are traveling empty. So this database is very important because Scania uses this in order to develop trucks and optimize transportation, deliveries, and of course to improve vehicle productivity. This is at the root of logistics. And in addition, if you have efficient lorries, it means that maintenance has to always be carried out, and through connectivity, you can carry out preventive maintenance, trying to anticipate any breakdowns and planning out stops. So smart and safe transportation is not trivial. So increasingly, industrial vehicles will be connected, and it is already a reality for us. This slide, it's a bit dense, and I will try to describe it briefly. The first column to the left has to do with the efficiency of trucks. At the center, smart and safe transportation. To the right, we see photos related to fuels. If we start from top left, consumptions, we can say that in the past 25 years there was a reduction in consumptions by some 25%, almost 1% a year, thanks to innovation, constant innovation, the launch of new devices and solutions. To the left, so the central picture, Scania driver services, is another very important thing which we sometimes do not consider. In other words, when we speak about connection, we are talking about the driving style of drivers. So sometimes it takes years to optimize consumption by 2 or 3%, but consider that 12% of consumptions rest on the driver's foot. Well, can I ask a question? This is very important. And it should be underscored, particularly in the case of this type of transportation. And it's the same figures, really, that for a few years has emerged in the field of, in the case of Fiat. I think it was 11%, not 12, but I mean, it's almost the same. But as far as the first slide, you talked about this 1% a year in terms of efficiency, improved efficiency. So how can you think you can improve efficiency? Because we are talking about trying to obtain as much as could be attained. Well, so very briefly, because it's not today's topic, but it seems to me to be very interesting. Yes, well, perhaps what comes out of these pictures is that Scania's philosophy is that we never want to leave anything untried. In the sense, when I said that 7% is invested in R&D, well, there are some timings, and I will get into the details in a minute concerning what are considered to be transition fuels, but all roads are tried, and we will continue to also work on diesel engine efficiency, but let us not forget. Yes, so there is still a lot to do in terms of efficiency. Yes, absolutely. It's never something that is quite completed. Yes, what is very important is paying attention to drivers and to the at the bottom, what do we mean by energy efficiency? Well, we've got this huge database of 470,000 connected vehicles, allows us to identify the best features for a type of transportation that was already mapped out in some other areas in the world in terms of load, driving style. So this allows us to produce a tailor-made vehicle for our customers' needs, and also ensuring lower consumption and lower environmental impacts. As far as the connected vehicles are concerned, we've already spoken about it. Autonomous driving is something that is already available. We don't have time now, but there are very interesting videos that can show you how to save time for in the case of drivers, and how to make route more efficient based on the existing technologies. As far as platooning is concerned, well, in this case, technology is already available. It's basically a sort of a virtual train, let's say. Instead of having carriages, you have several trucks, one after the other. Yes, in this case too, there is a very interesting video to watch, because there is a vehicle on the motorway, another vehicle requires to be attached to the first. So, for instance, the driver can do something else because the vehicle at the front is leading. So there is a 15% saving in terms of aerodynamics. No, it's less. Aerodynamics is important, but 12% is with a driver that drives correctly. Here you can save 2, 3, 4% if you have one truck following another. The last column to the right, briefly, shows vehicles that are currently being used with this type of charging method. The central part of the right-hand column is that of electrified motorways. There are some interesting experiences in this connection. What is this thing that seems to be a bit strange? What is a bit for? Well, a lot of pollution comes from motorways, particularly, for instance, in Germany. If these were electrified, environmental impacts would be strongly reduced. And once the motorway is finished, you can still use a diesel engine. So in Germany, there are 15 vehicles that are already using this, and we are also working a lot on this. Last part is wireless recharging concerning buses, but we're now going to move on to alternative fuels. This was just to show you what the philosophy of Scania is in terms of reducing environmental impacts. So we work on all fronts, really. So alternative fuels and electrification. This is a chart that best summarizes the reduced environmental impact thanks to alternative fuels. When I say reduction of CO2, it means that engines are available. Abatement with methane is up to 15% of CO2. And when we talk about biomethane, it is one of the best fuels because you can get to as far as 90% abatement. So reductions are as high as those of other fuels. So it is a really good fuel. Think of the fact that these data are those that are called wheel-to-well or well-to-wheel. But anyway, this is what the translation is, more or less. Now, let us move on to methane and biomethane. And to give you an idea, these are the various types of methane and biomethane-based fueled engines, Euro 3, 4, and 5. In 2012, Scania was the first to introduce the first Euro 6 methane fuel engine. There are some success cases. It's a good technology. Since 2003, some vehicles are fueled with methane, and also in the case of buses, you see here some applications and some brands, transportation companies that are using methane-based engines. So you see here the same truck you saw outside, which is the vehicle launched at Ecomondo in 2017, the Scania truck, 410 horsepower. Features of liquid methane, well, emissions are abated by 15%. There is no need for particle filters, reduction of NOx by 50%. The engines are very silent, they're not noisy at all, with sound emissions below 72 decibels certified. This is a figure, a percentage that you probably know already, but to give you a flavor, in the near future, this is a study conducted by NGVA, which is the most accredited in the sector, stating that as of today, this was actually October last year, but as of today, until 2030, it has been forecast that vehicle-based transportation, we will reach 1/4 of the total by 2030. This is quite impressive, this forecast, but even more impressive is the forecasts for fleets and number of vehicles. Below, we're just talking about trucks and only concerning LNG. So from 2,500 trucks in Europe, which is October last year, and it's already increased, this will get to 280,000 vehicles. So if we speak about transition fuel or in the immediate future, this may sound futuristic, but these are the forecasts that are considered to be more reliable. So the future is very promising. Let us move on by one slide, please.
Chiedo di andare avanti un attimo perché non credo che si sia bloccata.
So there is a problem with the slides because apparently they do not move forward, but
Eccola qua.
so here we are. Very quickly, Scania's offer, again with reference to lorries, to trucks. This is a truck. We also have compressed and liquefied trucks. This is 410 horsepower. Just a minute to tell you about the features. One of the philosophies of Scania is to promote torque, 2,000 Newton meters. I can confirm what was said by the first presentation, saying that the natural liquefied gas engines have got the same performances of diesel fuel engines, all other aspects being equal, so performance is basically the same. This is a thing which is typical of Scania, so torque around 1,000 revolutions, you get the maximum torque. Two other types of engines, 240 and the other. So here we've got the various layouts. Here we've got some of the features of liquefied methane. There is great autonomy, up to 1,600 kilometers in the case of liquefied methane, so long haulage is well provided for. And I would like to conclude with this image to underscore the fact that with reference to municipal companies, there are specific vehicles, new generation vehicles, that makes it easier to get on and off the trucks. You can see here the two types of engines, 280 and 340 horsepower. I hope I did not take more time than I was granted, and I thank you for your attention.